I drive nights because daylight makes me anxious. Too much eye contact, too many expectations. Nights are simpler. Pick up, drop off, keep my mouth shut. The work has its own rhythm. Dashboard glow, streetlights sliding across the windshield. The small private lives that enter my back seat and leave again. That Tuesday had been slow, the kind of slow that makes you start doing math you shouldn't do. Rent due in 5 days. Credit card minimums. The transmission whine I'd been pretending not to hear. I kept telling myself I was fine, that it always somehow worked out, that panic was for other people. At 1:12 a.m. The app pinged. Pick up at a VFW hall off a frontage road. Destination a condo complex about 12 miles away. I accepted because I accept almost everything. When I pulled up, the lot was half empty and slick with a recent rain. A couple of men stood near the entrance smoking, shoulders hunched. One of them waved at me like we'd known each other a long time. He was old in the way that isn't just age but erosion. Late 70s, maybe. His hair was thin and wet with sweat. He wore a suit jacket that had seen better decades, and his tie was loose like he'd given up halfway through tying it and decided that was good enough. He leaned into my open window. "You my ride?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said, and checked the name on my screen. "Harold?" He grinned, showing teeth that looked too small for his face. "That's me. You don't look like a Harold driver." "I don't know what that means." "It means you look like you got your bills paid," he said, and laughed at his own joke. He smelled like bourbon and cigarettes and a faint medicinal sweetness, like cough drops. He opened the back door slowly, as if it weighed 100 pounds, and slid in. The seatbelt clicked after a few tries. Then he sighed like he'd been holding his breath all day. "Home," he said, and patted the door panel. "Just get me home." For the first few minutes, he was quiet. I took the highway ramp and merged into a thin ribbon of traffic. He hummed something under his breath, an old melody I didn't recognize. I kept my eyes on the road and my mind on the meter, on the extra $1 or $2 I might get if the route took longer. At a stoplight, he leaned forward between the seats. "You married?" The question hit me the way personal questions always do, like a hand on the shoulder from someone you didn't notice standing behind you. "Yeah," I said. "Wife. Yeah. That's a good thing," he said, as if he'd been appointed to announce it. "Keep it. Don't trade it." I didn't answer. The light turned green. He watched the side streets pass. "I used to drive," he said. "Not this. Real driving. Freight. Back when you could smoke in the cab and nobody gave you a lecture." "Sounds like a different world." "It was," he said. "And I was a different man." His voice had that slippery softness of someone drunk but trying hard to stay dignified. I'd had passengers cry, flirt, scream into phones, fall asleep with their mouths open. Harold wasn't any of those. He sounded like he was holding a conversation with someone who wasn't there and using me as the stand-in. A few miles later, he asked me to stop at a gas station. "Need a Coke," he said. "Sugar helps." I pulled in under bright fluorescent lights. He fumbled with his wallet, then paused, swaying slightly. "You mind?" he asked. "I'll be quick." "Take your time," I said, though I knew time was money. He got out and walked toward the convenience store with the careful concentration of someone crossing a rope bridge. Through the glass, I watched him stand in the aisle staring at the coolers like he couldn't remember why he was there. A younger man behind the counter glanced at him and then at me, like he was hoping I'd come manage him. Harold returned with a Coke and a small bottle of water. He handed me the water. "I'm good," I said. "Take it anyway," he insisted. "It's not a gift unless you accept it." I took it. He nodded, satisfied, and settled back in. The condo complex was the kind built in the late 90s when developers decided beige was eternal. We rolled past identical carports and small decorative trees. The GPS guided me to a building near the back, one with a single porch light on. When I stopped, Harold didn't move right away. He stared at the dark windows like he was trying to see through them. "You all right?" I asked. He blinked and looked down at his hands. "I'm fine," he said. "Just give me a second." The app chimed, reminding me the ride was complete. I shifted in my seat, resisting the urge to clear my throat. Outside, a sprinkler clicked somewhere, a steady mechanical sound. Harold reached toward his wrist, fingers clumsy, and unfastened his watch. I noticed it then because he moved slowly enough for me to really see it. Not a cheap plastic digital, not the scratched steel thing most working men wear. This one had weight. Gold, I thought at first, or at least something meant to look like it. The face was simple, clean, with a small date window. It looked expensive in a way that made me uneasy. He leaned forward and held it out. "Here," he said. I stared. "No, I can't." "Yes, you can," he said. His tone sharpened, the drunk fog pulling back for a second. "Take it." "Sir, you can tip through the app." He shook his head. "They can claw that back. You give a man a watch, it's his. It's tangible." He said the last word like it mattered. I glanced at his wrist, pale skin with a lighter band where the watch had been. "That's a nice watch." "It's just time," he said. "And I got less of it than you." I should have refused. I know that. But my rational, calm brain, my good citizen brain, got crowded out by my bill-paying brain. The watch hovered between us like a dare. I took it, felt cool and heavy in my palm. Harold smiled, relieved, like he'd completed an obligation. "Now we're square," he said. Then he opened the door and stepped out into the wet night. He turned once, as if he wanted to say something else, but instead he just lifted 2 fingers in a sloppy salute and shuffled toward the building. I watched until he disappeared inside. Then I put the watch in my center console and drove away, telling myself I'd figure out the ethical part later. At home, the kitchen light was on. My wife, Melissa, sat at the table in sweatpants with her laptop open, the glow reflecting in her glasses. She looked up when I came in, her expression neutral in the way it had become lately. Guarded, tired, like she was always bracing for a new problem. "You're late," she said. "Slow night," I said, and hung my jacket. Her eyes dropped to my hands. "What's that?" I hadn't realized I was still holding the watch. I set it on the table like it might burn through the wood. "Guy gave it to me, as a tip." Melissa leaned forward. Even half asleep, she had an eye for quality. Her dad had been a jeweler before he drank himself out of the business. She picked up the watch carefully, turned it over, squinted at the markings. This is real," she said. "It's real what?" She looked at me. "It might be a Rolex." I laughed once, a reflex. "No, he was drunk. He probably got it at a pawn shop." Melissa didn't laugh. She held it closer to her face, reading something I couldn't see. "Harold?" she murmured, like the name mattered. "Did he say anything? Did he seem like money?" "He seemed like an old drunk." She placed the watch down gently. "We need to get it checked." My stomach tightened. Not excitement exactly, more like fear with a shine on it. "Even if it is, we can't keep it," I said automatically, because that's what a calm, rational person would say. Melissa watched me. "Do you know how behind we are?" she asked quietly. "Do you know what I did today?" I called the electric company and begged. "I know," I said. "I know." She touched the watch again, and I saw the smallest tremor in her fingers. "Just get it checked," she said. "Then we'll decide." That night, I lay in bed listening to her breathe and thinking about Harold's wrist, the pale band of skin, the way he'd said "now we're square." I told myself I was only curious. Curiosity is a respectable word. It sounds like innocence. The next afternoon, I took the watch to a small jewelry store in a strip mall. The sign said family owned since 1984. Inside, glass cases held rings and chains that looked like they'd never been worn. An older man with thick white eyebrows greeted me. "What can I do for you?" he asked. "I need to know if this is real," I said, and slid the watch across the counter. His demeanor changed instantly. He didn't smile anymore. He picked it up like it was fragile and dangerous at the same time. He turned it under a lamp, checked the clasp, the crown, the movement through the back. "How'd you come by this?" he asked. "A guy gave it to me," I said. "As a tip. I drive." He grunted, non-committal. Then he disappeared into the back. I waited, palms sweating, staring at a poster of a smiling couple in wedding attire. When he came back, he set the watch down and looked at me like I'd brought in a live animal. "This is a Rolex Day-Date," he said. "Looks authentic. If it is, you're holding, depending on year and condition, anywhere from 15 to maybe 30,000. I felt my face go hot. "That's not possible." "It's possible," he said. "And if it's stolen, it's also possible you're holding trouble." The word stolen landed hard. My calm brain surged back, protective. "I didn't steal it," I said. "I didn't say you did," he replied. "I'm telling you what I tell anyone who walks in with something like this without paperwork." He asked if I wanted a formal appraisal. I said no too quickly. I put the watch in my pocket like a secret. In the car, my hands shook on the steering wheel. 15,000, 30,000, numbers I couldn't fit into my life. Numbers that could erase months of dread. On the drive home, I rehearsed conversations with Melissa. In the best version, we turned it in, found the owner, did the right thing, and somehow the universe rewarded us anyway. In the more honest version, we sold it, caught up on bills, and tried not to think too hard. At home, Melissa's reaction was immediate and physical. She sat down like her knees had given out. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "I'm sure enough," I said. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "We could fix everything," she said, as if saying it might make it true. That's when the first twist happened, though I didn't understand it as a twist yet. Melissa said, very softly, "I've seen this watch before." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" She swallowed. "Not exactly, but my dad used to work on watches like this. There was a guy years ago who came in all the time. Always drunk, always angry. He had a gold Rolex. He'd slam it on the counter and demand my dad make it run right." "Was his name Harold?" I asked, half joking, half not. Melissa shook her head. "I don't remember his name. I remember my dad hated him. Said he was the kind of man who treated money like it was an excuse." She rubbed her forehead. "That doesn't matter," she said. "It's just weird. I told myself it was coincidence. A lot of men own Rolexes. A lot of old men get drunk." My denial was tidy and convincing. But that evening, while Melissa cooked box pasta, I opened the app to look at my ride history. Harold's pickup, his drop-off, his name. There was no way to contact him. The system doesn't let you after a certain window. I drove back to the condo complex anyway. An hour later, under the excuse of peace of mind. The porch light was still on. I stood outside the door, listening. Nothing. I didn't knock. I don't know why. Maybe because if he answered, I'd have to act like a good person. On the way back to my car, I noticed a white envelope on the ground near the curb, damp from the grass. It looked like junk mail, but it had handwritten words on the front. My name, my license plate number. My heart thudded. I picked it up and tore it open in the car. Inside was a folded sheet of paper and a $10 bill, stuck to it like an afterthought. The note was written in shaky block letters. "Forgive me. It's yours now. Don't let her see you sell it." No signature. I read it 3 times. The her snagged in my mind like a burr. At home, I didn't show Melissa the note. I told myself I was protecting her from stress. That was the lie I used. The truth was I liked having something that was mine alone. We argued anyway. Melissa wanted to sell the watch quickly, through a reputable dealer. "We can pay rent, fix the car, maybe even breathe," she said. "We can stop living like we're one bad day away from eviction." I wanted to move slower. Not because of morality, though I kept using that word. Because the note had spooked me. Don't let her see you sell it. Who was her? Melissa. Another woman? A daughter? Someone who would come looking? I also wanted, in a way that embarrassed me, to keep the watch. Not to wear it, God no. I'm not that guy. But to own it, to know it existed in my drawer like a secret emergency exit. We compromised in the worst way. We decided to keep it hidden while we figured things out. That meant it sat in a sock in my dresser while I continued driving nights, watching the app numbers crawl upward. Money changed the air in the house. Even unsold, even hypothetical, it made us speak differently. Melissa started looking at houses online like it was entertainment. I started thinking about my brother's loans, my mom's medical bills, the way my life had always been held together with baling wire and hope. 3 days later, a message came through the app. Not to me, but to Melissa. She'd logged in on my phone once to check earnings, and apparently her email was now linked in some customer service loop. The message was from support. Generic, but the subject line made my skin go cold. Inquiry regarding item left in vehicle. Melissa read it out loud. They're asking if you found a watch. My first instinct was relief. There's a process for this. You return it. You're done. Clean hands. Then Melissa scrolled. It says the writer claims it was taken, she said. Taken, not left. They're asking for your statement. Taken. Like theft. Like I'd reached over and unbuckled it from his wrist. My shame came first, hot and immediate, before anger, before logic. I pictured a complaint, my account suspended, our income gone. The watch wasn't money anymore. It was a threat. I told Melissa about the note. I watched her face change. Not surprise, something sharper. You didn't tell me, she said. I didn't want to freak you out. It says don't let her see you sell it, she repeated. Why would he say that? I didn't have an answer that didn't make me look worse. The second twist came when we tried to find Harold outside the app. Melissa is the kind of person who can locate anyone with a name and a zip code. She went into detective mode. Property records, social media, old obituaries. An hour later, she called me into the living room. Harold isn't Harold, she said. On her laptop was a photo from a local news article dated 6 years back. It showed a younger version of the same face, same small teeth, same heavy eyelids, standing beside a courthouse entrance. The headline was about an embezzlement case involving a union pension fund. The man's name wasn't Harold. It was Howard Leland, treasurer, sentenced, missing money never recovered. Melissa clicked another tab. An obituary for a woman named Margaret Leland, survived by a daughter named Rachel. The photo showed a woman in pearls, smiling in a way that looked practiced. This guy stole money from working people, Melissa said, and he's walking around giving away Rolexes to strangers. I sat down slowly. The watch felt heavier in my mind now, like it carried the weight of other people's losses. Maybe it was his, I said weakly. Melissa looked at me like I was being naive on purpose. Or maybe it was bought with stolen money, she said. Or maybe it belongs to that daughter, Rachel. The her in the note rearranged itself in my head. We could have stopped there. We could have contacted the company, turned in the watch, explained everything, accepted the consequences. That would have been the rational move. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of, and I did it because money had already started pulling strings inside me. I replied to support from Melissa's email and wrote, "NO item found." I watched the words leave the screen. My stomach flipped, guilt and relief braided together so tight I couldn't separate them. Melissa didn't stop me. She just stared at the sent confirmation like it had sealed something. "That's it," she said quietly. "Now it's ours." We sold it through a gray channel, not a reputable dealer. A guy named Denny met me in a Walmart parking lot. He wore a puffy vest and had a wedding ring 10 line but no ring. He'd been recommended by someone on an online forum. Fast, fair, no questions. That should have been a warning. I ignored it because I wanted the transaction to feel like a movie, quick and clean. Denny examined the watch under his car's dome light. He whistled. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. "This is a nice piece." "I'm sure," I said, trying to sound like someone who sells Rolexes all the time. He offered $12,000 cash. I said I'd been told it was worth more. He shrugged. "Then go to a store and get your paperwork," he said. "Or take my money and go home." I took his money. Back in my car, the envelope of cash sat on the passenger seat like a living thing. I drove home with both hands gripping the wheel, checking my mirrors too often. Every red light felt like a police trap. Melissa and I spread the money on the bed and counted it twice. The bills smelled like someone else's sweat. We paid rent that night through the online portal 3 months at once. I paid my credit card down to zero and felt a strange hollow where panic used to live. Melissa scheduled a mechanic. For 2 days, our house felt lighter, like air had returned. That was our false resolution. We told ourselves it was handled, that we'd gotten lucky, that the universe had thrown us a rope and we'd grabbed it. Melissa even laughed one morning, an actual laugh, when she found a coupon for a restaurant we hadn't been to in years. I went back to driving with a new ease. I tipped bigger. I let other drivers merge. I acted briefly like a person who deserved what he had. Then, a week later, Melissa got a certified letter in the mail. It was addressed to her, not me. That's what made my chest tighten before she even opened it. Inside was a legal notice from an attorney's office. The language was stiff, precise, the kind of words designed to make you feel small. It referenced property belonging to the estate of Margaret Leland and wrongful possession. It demanded return of a gold Rolex Day-Date serial number, the exact serial number that had been on the appraisal slip I declined, but the jeweler had still scribbled it on his business card when he handed me the watch back. The third twist landed in that serial number. The jeweler had logged it. Logged me. Maybe because he was honest. Maybe because he wanted to protect himself. Either way, my no item found had been a joke. Melissa read the letter twice, lips moving silently. "How do they know me?" she whispered. I didn't answer because the answer was forming in my mind, ugly and obvious. She had used her email. She had a digital trail. The letter included a name, Rachel Leland. It gave a phone number for her attorney. It said failure to comply could result in civil action and referral to law enforcement. Melissa's face went pale. "We don't have it," she said. "We sold it." I felt a deep, sinking cold. The money we'd spent now looked different, like it had teeth. "We can pay it back," I said automatically. "We can." "With what?" she snapped. And there was the anger finally, but it rode on top of shame. "We already used it." We sat at the kitchen table in silence. The electric bill was paid. The fridge was full. The car was fixed. All of it suddenly felt like evidence. That night, I searched Rachel Leland online. I found a LinkedIn profile, Director of Development at a nonprofit. Clean headshot, professional smile. I found a local gala photo. Her in a black dress, hand on an older man's arm. Money circles money, I thought bitterly. Then I found something else. A campaign donation list that included my wife's name. Melissa's name wasn't common. The donation was small, $50, dated 2 months ago. I stared at it until my eyes blurred, denial cracking. Melissa had never told me she'd donated to anything. We hadn't had $50 to spare. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She sat on the couch with her hands folded in her lap like she was waiting to be judged. "I didn't donate," she said. "Not really. I bought a ticket." "To what?" She hesitated. "A fundraiser. For that nonprofit. Rachel's nonprofit." I felt dizzy. "Why?" Melissa's eyes glistened, but she held herself together. "Because I met her," she said, "a while back, when my dad was sick. Rachel was at the hospital fundraising event. She helped me get him transferred to a better facility. She was kind." The story sounded too neat, too charitable. "So you knew Rachel Leland?" I said. "You knew that name." "I didn't connect it," Melissa said quickly. "Not until the article. Not until we started searching. And even then, I didn't want it to be true. Denial before awareness. I knew that feeling. I'd been living in it all week, pretending the money was clean because it sat in my bank account like clean money." Melissa took a shaky breath. "Rachel talked about her dad," she said. "She said he ruined their life. She said he had this watch, this stupid watch that he kept like a trophy. She said when her mom died, her dad showed up drunk and took things. The watch was one of them." I stared at her, my mouth dry. "So the her in the note. She's the one he didn't want to know," Melissa finished. The fourth twist wasn't just that Melissa knew Rachel. It was what that meant. The watch wasn't a random gift from a drunk man. It was a deliberate move. Harold Howard had used me. He'd handed me a stolen watch with a note that made me hide it from my own wife. He'd planted distrust like a seed. "And you still let me sell it," I said. Melissa's face tightened. "You replied, 'No item found,'" she shot back. "Don't make this only on me." We stared at each other, both of us holding pieces of the blame and trying to arrange them into a shape we could live with. I felt something sour in my chest. Not righteousness, not anger yet. Shame first. Shame that I'd been so easy. Shame that money had turned me into someone who lied without thinking. "What do we do?" Melissa whispered. I didn't answer because the honest answer was, "I don't want to give it back." We called the attorney the next day. I listened on speakerphone as Melissa explained, voice careful, that we didn't have the watch, that it had been given as a tip, that we had no idea it was stolen. She left out the part where we denied finding it. She left out the parking lot sale. The attorney's tone stayed polite, but I could hear the hard edge underneath. He said Rachel was willing to resolve the matter without litigation if we paid the value of the watch. He said $25,000. Melissa's hand flew to her mouth. I stared at the wall. "We don't have that," she said, voice cracking. "Then we can discuss payment arrangements," the attorney said. "But understand this is a serious matter. Mrs. Leland is prepared to pursue all remedies." After the call, Melissa cried in the bathroom with the shower running, the way she does when she wants privacy even from me. I sat at the table and did math again, worse math this time. We could maybe borrow. We could maybe take out a personal loan. But that would drag us back into the swamp we just climbed out of, except now we'd be in it with legal threats. I drove that night, not for income but to avoid being in the house with the consequences. Every passenger felt like a judge. Around midnight, I got another ping from the app. Pick up at the same VFW hall. My pulse jumped. The name on the screen was different, but the address was exact. I accepted. I told myself it was coincidence. It didn't feel like coincidence. In the lot, a woman stood alone under the overhang, holding a tote bag. Mid-40s, neat hair, coat too nice for the setting. When she opened the back door, she looked at me through the rearview mirror and said my name like she already knew it. "I'm Rachel," she said. My hands tightened on the wheel. "How did you?" "I know about the watch," she said, calm, controlled. "And I know my father likes to outsource his messes." The air in the car felt smaller. Money had driven the plot straight into my back seat again. Rachel didn't smell like booze. She smelled like expensive detergent and rain. "I'm not here to threaten you," she said. "My attorney already did that." I swallowed. "Then why are you here?" "Because you're a person," she said. "And my father isn't. He doesn't think of people as people. He thinks of them as tools." I should have stayed silent. I should have asked for a lawyer. Instead, I talked because part of me wanted to be seen as decent even while I wasn't acting that way. "He gave it to me," I said. "I didn't take it." Rachel nodded. "I believe you. That's what makes you useful." The word useful hit like a slap. She took a folder from her tote and slid it forward between the seats. "My father is living off cash," she said. "Hidden cash. The pension money he stole, some of it is still out there. He can't access banks. He's paranoid. He moves it in pieces." I glanced at the folder but didn't open it. "Why tell me this?" "Because I can't get near him," she said. "If I show up, he disappears. He hates me. He blames me for his life turning out the way it did." Her voice stayed steady, but I heard something raw underneath it. She continued, "He gave you that watch because he wanted it gone. It was identifiable. Tied him to my mother's estate. But he also wanted to punish me. He wanted to create a mess I'd have to clean.